Hi friends, and welcome to this special episode of Only a Movie, where we're going to be talking about the new Blade Runner 2049. Was Robert McKee right when he claimed that a culture cannot evolve without honest, powerful storytelling? Was poet Carl Sandburg onto something when he claimed that Hollywood is the foremost educational institution on Earth? Can movies today transcend mere entertainment and help us make sense of life? This is our attempt to look at movies and how they succeed or fail at fulfilling the human longing for meaning. Or something like that. As you might notice, doing things a little differently this time. It's just me on the sofa. Penny and Trevor are both out and about doing things, but they will be joining me on the next episode, so don't worry. I got a chance to check out the new Blade Runner. And in fact, I even blogged about it. So if you'd like to check out that blog entry, I'll put the link below, and you can read more of my thoughts on Blade Runner. Right off the bat, one of the things that I was so concerned about with this movie is that I love the original film. I'm a big fan of the original film. In fact, it's a huge influence on me. It's such an influence on me, in fact, that even my most recent short film very much pays homage to the original Blade Runner in a lot of ways. So when I heard they were making a sequel, I definitely had some strong feelings about the whole idea of a sequel, especially if you're a fan of Blade Runner and you know how the original film ends. And by the original, I mean the director's cut of the film, not the one with the weird, crazy ending that they tried and then scrapped, but the director's cut ending. Then you know that there's some ambiguity. There's a mystery at the end of the film. A sequel that has Deckard in it, Harrison Ford's character, definitely ends up answering some of those questions. It removes that mystery. And that was certainly why I was upset. Here I was thinking, you know, here might be the first sequel that legitimately ruins the original film. But I was wrong. So if you haven't seen the original film, this is probably not as interesting of a discussion to you. Also, I mean, if you haven't seen the original film, this sequel probably isn't that interesting to you. And that was probably proved at the box office. Already the studio that released the film admitted that they overestimated the audience for this film. To be fair, the original Blade Runner was a cult hit as well. It flopped at the box office. I mean, it was critically well received in a lot of ways, but it wasn't exactly a box office hit. It was a flop. So the original Blade Runner ends with this mystery of, is Deckard a replicant or not? It's a really important concept because the story of Blade Runner and the story, the Philip K. Dick's novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, plays very much on this idea of empathy and the idea that replicants, these robotic, biotechnological engineered beings, don't excel at empathy in the way that humans do. And that's one of the tells. In fact, measuring empathy or lack of empathy is exactly what Deckard does. He is a detective who is in charge of hunting down rogue replicants that are out there. That's why he's referred to as a Blade Runner. So the idea of empathy is really central to the story because Deckard goes about administering tests on people to determine, are you really a person or are you a replicant? Because replicants don't quite do as well in the department of empathy. It's also a really important idea for the film because of the interaction between Deckard and Rachel, the replicant he falls in love with. One of the controversies of the original Blade Runner is the love scene, if you can exactly call that love scene, between Deckard and Rachel. It's, how should I put this? Kind of rapey. If we interpret the ending of the film as Deckard maybe is a replicant, then, Deckard also struggles with empathy. And the whole idea of making love to another person, I think, essentially requires a lot of empathy. Legitimate making love to another person is an empathetic experience. That's not necessarily to excuse a sort of weird rapey scene in the original film, but it is an interesting interpretation, at least. It's a possibility. Whereas if Deckard is a human being, then he seems to be a kind of a jerk in that moment because here he is taking advantage of a replicant and just being like, well, you know, she's not exactly human, so maybe it's okay for me to kind of force myself upon her. Which, you know, doesn't sit well with me, I'll admit. And so I've always tended towards I think Deckard is a replicant interpretation. It makes a lot of sense for me. But then along comes this sequel, and lo and behold, Harrison Ford's in it. Well, here's the problem. Replicants are only supposed to be able to live for 3 years. So how's Deckard still alive decades later? So that was why I was like, oh no, I think here's a sequel that's actually going to ruin the original film. Uh-oh. But here's the thing. I really like Denis Villeneuve, the director of the film. I absolutely love Arrival. Fantastic film. One of the best films, probably of the decade. So having Denis Villeneuve direct this new Blade Runner, having Roger Deakins, one of my all-time favorite cinematographers, one of the greats, really, you know, the cinematographer of movies like Shawshank Redemption and Skyfall and a whole myriad of other amazing-looking films, including films that he's done with Denis Villeneuve in the past, like Prisoners. And looking at the trailers, I was like, well, shoot. I mean, I do kind of want to see it. So I gave it a shot, I gave it a chance, and I discovered that I think they figured out a way to navigate this difficult terrain of leaving a certain amount of mystery around Deckard and what exactly is Deckard, and being able to explore more of this world of Blade Runner. And that's the beauty of Blade Runner 2049. They expand on the world, and they expand on some of the themes and some of the ideas that get introduced in the original Blade Runner. While Philip K. Dick was not a fan of the movie version of his novel, the themes and ideas introduced in that movie really do owe a great debt of gratitude to Philip K. Dick. And in fact, the themes introduced in 2049 really owe a lot to Philip K. Dick and the amazing writing that he did throughout his career. 2049 really tackles a lot of these big questions about where we're headed as human beings and what makes us human in the first place. And so we're very quickly as a society approaching a point where artificial intelligence may well be on the horizon. That's going to be something that we're going to need to deal with. We're already at a place where very realistic robots are being created, and in fact are being created for, I don't know, things that make me a little skeevy. The idea of having sex with robots, those things actually do exist already. Currently they're on the fringe. It's not exactly a mainstream notion. It's not something that most people are comfortable with. But the reality is, as a society, as a species, we are approaching a place where we're going to really have to address these concepts of what does it mean to be a human being, and what is human sexuality exactly? Is it something that is expressed only between two people, or is it, you know, something that it can be expressed between a person and something artificial, which 2049 kind of deals with that, and even the idea of falling in love with a non-corporeal digital being, the way Ryan Gosling's character does in the movie. So 2049 definitely brings up some really big key issues about that aspect of the human experience, which is sexuality. But more profoundly even is still the question of what makes us who we are. Because Kay, the character that Ryan Gosling plays, has these memories that are integral to who he sees himself to be. Of course, he's a replicant, and he knows he's a replicant, but he has these memories, and that's the reality of all replicants in the Blade Runner world, is that they're implanted with these memories so that they can operate in a much more human and organic manner. Because, you know, in so many ways, we are the collective wisdom of our experiences. We make choices always based out of our experiences and the collection of our experiences, which is why we change over time, which is why we change our minds over time, and why we need to live life and go through experiences to be able to determine who we are as a person. So Kay has these memories that are implanted there, and he knows they're implanted there, but they help him operate as a more whole person, as it were. And I think that's a really interesting and important theme in the Blade Runner universe, because the idea that our memories make us who we are is both fascinating and a bit challenging. It also begs the question, if I lose my memories, am I still who I am? So if I have Alzheimer's or dementia, or suffer a severe brain trauma that ends up causing a significant loss of memory, am I still the person who I was? So implicit in the themes of Blade Runner are these deeper questions about, do we have a soul? What makes us who we are? Are we merely the collection of our memories? Or is there something immaterial that actually makes me who I am? Because if you erase all my memories, have you killed me? Or is there some sense in which the me, whose memories you've erased, still exists? And this is why I love really good sci-fi. And this is why I'm actually really sad that Blade Runner 2049 hasn't done as well at the box office. Because movies like this that are thoughtful and nuanced and that provide a beautiful scope of a very different future than we envision for ourselves, and ask these types of questions are often rare. They're not a lot that come out. And especially in this day and age where everything's a franchise, everything's a sequel, to actually have a really thoughtful sequel that's inside of a very influential world that was created by Ridley Scott back in 1982, it feels significant and it feels valuable. It feels worth celebrating. It feels worth seeing on the big screen. I'd hate for the message to inadvertently be sent to the Hollywood studios that, hey, there's really not a market for this kind of big scale, thoughtful science fiction. And yet I feel like this is definitely one of the more interesting films that's coming out this year. Probably right up there with Mother for all its controversy. That should be its own episode. But anyway, all of that to say, there are worthwhile themes explored in 2049, and I do hope more people do check it out and contemplate those thoughts of what makes us human beings on multiple fronts, as sexual beings, as people with memories, or is there something immaterial that makes us who we are? These are central philosophical questions that have always been on the minds of philosophers. Science fiction does a great job of taking these scenarios and extrapolating them out into amazing examples and raising even further questions. And 2049 continues in that tradition. And because of that, I feel like I was wrong. I was wrong to be so worried. I'm glad I saw the movie. I want to see it again, and I hope more people see it. All right, thank you so much for watching this special episode of Only a Movie. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And please comment below, what did you think of 2049? Am I bonkers? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm full of crap and the movie was garbage. Tell me. By all means, I am up for a great discussion, for a great conversation. Are there other themes in 2049 that you enjoyed? Are there other things about the original Blade Runner that you wish you would have seen more of in this particular sequel? Again, thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and be sure to check out our other episodes of Only a Movie and the short films that we make. Thank you so much.